Welcome to Underground TV, my people. We wanted to give you guys a little bit of a tour of some of the outside breeding facilities that we have. Today we're going to go through some of the Tegu lines. This is the red Tegu line. Interesting fact about red Tegus are they're the last breeders of the year. Where some of our Tegus lay eggs in April, some of these don't even lay their eggs until June. So we still have some females we're waiting for to lay some eggs. We got a big female out here. She laid eggs about 3 or 4 days ago. Now she's looking to stuff herself. Oh, that's not good. Don't do that to your nose. She has beautiful clean water. She's a Paraguayan red Tegu. Notice she's not Argentine. So she doesn't have that nice solid cinnamony color, but she's more broken up. Now, you're also going to notice that she's not really very colorful right now. Right after they lay eggs, all their proteins have been sucked out of their body. Their eggs were used. And she's about a 2.5-year-old animal now. It's her first year breeding. Her eggs came out really nice. Walking down the line, continuing, you see another one here that just laid eggs. She laid eggs on, doesn't say. Look at that beauty. It's another Paraguayan. Recovering nicely from her egg laying. She laid eggs a couple of weeks ago, so she's already got some of her fat storage is up again. Now the way we set up our animals, guys, is one male per 2 females. So we'll have a male and 2 females, a male and 2 females, and we'll mix them in. You'll see we have cages on the other side to hold separate males or females, and then we have the larger cages here. Continuing down the line, this here is one of the males that breeds with, you see a big, beautiful, colorful male. See his big jowls. For a breeder male, that's a really sensational animal. Usually they get a little torn up. He's got a perfect tail. He's got that nice solid red color because he's part Argentine and part Paraguayan. We sometimes cross the different locales to create a different environment. If you look right over here, now we have our ice line. This is my favorite line. This is what produces all our albino ice Tegus. Look at that crazy looking animal. Look at the splotches that have the red dots in it. You have this weird gray beige color with a red dot in it. That's also a female that's already laid eggs. That's a sensational looking animal. We got a bunch of eggs from them. We've probably got 300 ice Tegu eggs in the incubators right now, waiting to hatch. There's one of our females. That's a true ice. Also, here's one of our big females. This gigantic fat girl. Look at her. Now, ice Tegu is an interesting animal because they're all het for albino. So when you breed them back to each other, when you breed an ice to an ice, you know it's a true ice by the fact that it gives off albinos. These are all females, females. Now here's a male we crossed a bunch of them with. This is an albino male. The ice Tegu is 50% black and white, 37% blue, and 13% red, but 100% het for albinism. And this is what they look like. Now what's special about that, guys, is usually when you take a blue Tegu albino and breed it back to another blue Tegu albino, you're not going to get albinos. But because the ice tegus have so much other bloodlines in them, it for some reason strengthens the gene pool, and you wind up where you can breed albinos back to albinos and get albinos. Or in my case, I breed my albino to my hets and get a higher percentage. Take you guys over to see the purple line. But before we do, I'll have Josiah show you something cool.
Welcome to this week's creature feature. This week we have the Leachianus gecko. The Leachianus gecko is one of the most unique geckos in the reptile industry and one of the most sought after. It also happens to be the largest gecko in the world. These guys are known for quite a few things. Number one, for having velvety smooth skin, for having an amazing pattern and color combination depending on the locality. They usually have either a yellow or brown base with different patternings on top. They can be pink, they can be red, they can be white. There's a lot of really cool lines out there. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some different localities. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about care, origins. So Leachianus geckos, they come out of New Caledonia, just like a lot of other common geckos in the reptile industry, just like crested geckos do, just like gargoyle geckos do. The different localities range from two main categories: Grand Terre, which is abbreviated into GT, and offshore, which some people call island types. Island types are Nuana, Nuami, Moro. There's I think like 7 in total different localities of offshore and GT. For GT, there's Mount Kogus, there's Humboldt, there's Yate. There's a lot of really cool GT morphs. Now GTs tend to get a bit bigger. They tend to be a bit more defensive. They tend to be a bit more difficult when breeding. Offshores, however, tend to stay a bit smaller. They tend to be a bit easier to handle, and they also tend to be a bit easier to breed. So breeding for Leachianus is actually a really unique experience. It's different than a lot of other New Caledonian geckos. With a lot of New Caledonian geckos, you just kind of pair them up and they go. But for Leachianus, there is a bonding process that's recommended. And that is sometimes some breeders will introduce the male into the female cage without the female there, so that way he can get familiar with her scent, and vice versa, so that way the female can get familiar with the male scent. Some breeders will divide the cage with screen mesh, so that way they can get used to each other's presence. And it's really important to do that because sometimes the female Leachianus will reject the male, and it can lead to really disastrous results. It can lead to lost tails, it can lead to intense scarring, it can lead to even death in extreme cases. So it's really important to keep an eye on your Leachianus when you pair them up. Now, even when things go well, you're gonna find that your Leachianus will still do some sort of rough play. So your male is going to have a little bit of scarring. You can see on this guy. We'll show some footage over the top, but you'll see that this guy is going to have some scarring on him, and that's normal. You want to look out for like really big scars. That's an indicator. You're going to look out for lost tails. That's an indicator that your Leachianus aren't getting along. They need to be separated. Leachianus, they don't produce nearly as much as, say, crested geckos or even gargoyles. Offshore types usually lay anywhere from 4 to 5 clutches. In some rare cases, 6 clutches. And those clutches, like crested geckos and gargoyles, come in batches of 1 or 2. The main island types, the GTs, they have even less clutches, usually 2, 3, sometimes 4 clutches, and same deal, only about 2. But you know, with these guys, usually once they lay eggs, as long as the eggs are fertile, it's usually smooth sailing. The eggs tend to be pretty hardy. They tend to be pretty resistant to dryness, as well as a little bit of as well as oversaturation. And they usually have a really good hatch rate. I would say between 80 and 90, as long as they're kept in the right temperature range as well as the proper humidity range. As far as diet, these guys will eat a similar diet to gargoyles and crested geckos in that they eat the powdered diet of crested geckos. There are specialized diets out there. However, a lot of people have had great success just raising them up on the crested gecko diet. As far as insects go, you can offer these guys crickets, mealworms, superworms, roaches, pretty much any insect that you would offer to cresteds or gargoyles you can offer to Leachianus. However, in my experience, I found that they're not as interested in insects as, say, gargoyles or chahuas or even crested geckos. I find that they usually just stick to the hydrated powder. As far as enclosure goes, you're going to need a slightly larger enclosure than you would for a crested gecko or gargoyle. For crested geckos and gargoyles, you can keep them in 24 by 24 by 18 cages, but for these I would recommend something a bit larger. Maybe 36 by 24 by 18 would be more appropriate for these guys. We might show you some footage of the cages that we keep them in just to give you an idea. The cages I keep these guys in is actually the plastic Sterilite totes, the 90 quart ones. I don't remember the exact measurements off the top of my head, but for me that's a perfect size for most Leachianus as well as Leachianus pairs. That's going to do it for this week's creature feature. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments. We'll happily get back to you as soon as we can, and I'll see you next week.
Weren't those cool animals? Some of my favorites. That giant lychee, whoa, that's something else. So this is our blue and purple line. What's interesting about the blue and purple line is this is about a 12-year-old blue. Now, if you see all that water in there and you're thinking, why do they keep it in water? Well, it just rained here. It's South Florida. And we get rain and then the rain will drain out. But we're still waiting for the blues to lay some eggs. We got a couple that might still be gravid. Otherwise, we have these. If you see, this is a purple. Now, purple tegu is 3/4 blue, 1/4 red. Some of my purples are het albinism because they've got that albino blue in them, but most of them aren't. Blue tegus, purple tegus, just so you know, are a dying breed. In another 2 years, there will be no more purple tegus unless somebody decides to hold some back. So you guys, for the last 10 years, have enjoyed keeping purple tegus. That's the end of them. Very interesting thing about tegus that you don't have about ball pythons and boas. You're only getting 10 years out of a bloodline. Unless somebody specifically holds back more from the original batch and breeds them, that's it. It's not a situation where you can make more purples. The original purples that I started with, they're all gone. That's 15 years ago, and they're all died off. So now any of the purple offspring, unless you breed them back to each other, which nobody's doing, true regular purple tegus, that small, beautiful, fractured pattern, explosions, they're gone. I'm not producing any. Interesting, you know. In a few years, ice tegus might be a thing of the past too. But it's okay, because right here is the thing of the future. All these. Guys, this is the Snowmaker line. This is what we call the Super Reds, or the Snowmakers. I held back. So here's what I did. I had an ice tegu, and I crossed it with a het anery. And I bred them, and I didn't know it was going to take or not, but we produced about 35 animals, and I held every single one of them back. And now we've raised them all up, and we got eggs. We got lots of eggs this year. So it's a really, the question is what's gonna come of it. Now, here's one of the males. Look at this insane animal, guys. You ever seen anything like this? Tell me. Look at the coloration on that male. Now look at the other albino we just saw that had all that white in it. It was almost like a snow color. This one here, because it's a super red, It has that incredible black back. I'm sorry, a red back with the stripes down the side. That is what's called an albino snowmaker. And what we did is we took some of his genes and we crossed them with some of the hets. So, what are they going to look like? Nobody knows. These flags mean that there's females in the cages that were waiting to lay eggs. There's a little female that laid. Did she lay? No, not yet. Look at her. Here's some more. Now what's really cool about these is there's so much variety with these things, even in the hets. Some of them have the black and white look to them, like that one there. Look how light its face and head is. But look at this one here. This one has the brown nose like a blue. Look at this animal. And yet they have this blue or green hue to them. And they have this sick red belly, most of them. Let me see if I can grab it and show you the belly. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
I could hear them now. I could hear the comments now. Don't pick it up by its tail. Bite me. If you're a 12-year-old kid out there and you leave a comment telling me how to handle tegus, do me a favor. Stick your head in the toilet bowl and flush it. And lastly, this is our black and white line. This is our most productive from the point of numbers. All these have black and whites in them. Boom! Big male. Now this is a classic Argentine black and white tegu. This is one of the original black and white tegu lines that ever came into the country. We've been producing these things for 20 years. You can tell by the black marbleized head, not a white head. Whereas the Chicoan whiteheads, the ones that are most popular on the market, have this big white head. Some people actually call them Chicoan whiteheads. This is an Argentine black and white tegu. Nice black banding, white chain link banding. And now, what's happening with these tegus now, guys, so you know, is these things have already laid eggs. Babies are actually due to hatch in the next day or two. We'll go upstairs and we'll check our batch of eggs and see if any are hatching. And now they got to put on weight. They want to eat, 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 eat. And then for about 6 weeks, they're going to keep eating. And then about July, late July, they're going to go to sleep. And even though it doesn't get cold in Florida, they're going to go to sleep like it's winter. It's the craziest thing. Now, this here tegu, guys, I want to introduce you to somebody. We call him Francis. He's the meanest, nastiest tegu I've ever had in my entire life. I've never had a worse tegu. When it comes to overall attitude, when it comes to voraciousness, he is the meanest. He's a 5-year-old male. He breeds with 4 to 5 females a year, and all he does is try to eat and hurt people. He is a hateful, hateful animal. I almost called him a human. His name is Francis. And if anybody can leave in the comments section why I call him Francis, the first 5 get a free t-shirt. First 5, if you could tell me why his name is Francis, I'm not going to give you any more hint than that. Francis, because he tries to kill us. You can tell. First 5 that guess, free t-shirt. So that's our tegus. We currently are fighting that crazy law that Florida Wildlife Commission put out there. We're doing it legally. We're doing it monetarily. If you would like to support us and help us do that, don't send us your money. Send it to usarkflorida.org. usarkflorida.org. Go there. Look at the link on our website. Help us out. If you like getting tegus, if you like breeding your iguanas, if you like keeping your iguanas as pets, tegus, and all that stuff, we need your help. Listen, even if you send $5 or $10. anything you send helps, because it's literally going to cost us $1 million. Now all the businesses have gotten together and we're each putting in the thousands and the thousands, but man, without you guys out there that are going to help us out, we're never going to make it. So please help us out. Thank you so much for taking this journey with us, and we'll see you again soon. Oos.